What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the sister Juanetta Thomas for the $20 donation via the Cash App. Much respect to her for showing love to Too Raw for TV, aka Too Raw for Sports. And I also want to let you guys know I have not forgotten about the other video requests that I've gotten. Just got a lot of video requests today. Wasn't able to get around to some of the other videos, but I haven't forgotten, and I will be doing other videos tomorrow. So this is a question that I got. Which one of the three-peats was the most impressive? The 91, 92, 93 three-peat or the 96, 97, 98? And to be honest with you, I don't think there's a definitive answer. I guess it's just more your preference. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen were on the downside of their careers in the late 90s when they won the second three-peat. So obviously, since they were on the downside of their careers, they need a little bit more help. And they got that. Dennis Rodman is a Hall of Famer. Tony Kukoc was not an NBA Hall excuse me. He was not an NBA Hall of Famer, but he's an international Hall of Famer. Great international player. The bench was a little bit deeper during the second three-peat. You can also argue that the NBA was weaker during the second three-peat. The NBA was weaker. There were more expansion teams. There were more busts starting in 1995 as far as the NBA draft is concerned. The center position was beginning to fade as far as in its overall dominance. A trend that continues to this day, even though you had a little slight resurgence recently. You have those things that happen, so that goes against the second three-peat as far as them being an all-time, well, not all-time great, but them being better than the first three-peat. I guess you can then look at competition in the Eastern Conference. Well, when was competition stronger? And, look, one of the knocks against the earlier championship teams is that in 91 they benefited from injuries. They benefited from the slow decline of the Boston Celtics and the Detroit Pistons. Some people say that the only competition they had was the Knicks. I'm thinking about the Eastern Conference Finals in '93, and in that particular year they played against the Knicks. They won 60 games. The year before that they played Cleveland. Cleveland was a strong team. In '91, they swept the Pistons, who were the defending champions. In 1996, in the conference finals, they went up and swept the Orlando Magic, who was supposed to be a team of the future. They went to the finals the year before that. In '97, they went up against the Miami Heat, who won 61 games that year. They lost. The Bulls beat them at 5. Then in '98, they played the Pacers, probably the best Pacers team ever. Even though the Pacers went to the finals in 2000, I think most people would consider the '98 Pacers to be the best Pacer team. And they did something that almost never happened, and that was take the Bulls to a full 7-game schedule. And unlike in '92, when the Bulls blew out the Knicks by like 30-something points in a Game 7. That Game 7 went all the way down to the wire. You know, I'm starting to lean toward the 98 team. Not 98, excuse me, the second three-peat. Michael came out of retirement. There was no indication in 1995 that the Bulls were going to three-peat. There were many people who doubted whether Michael Jordan could come back and be the best player in the NBA, let alone win a championship, let alone repeat, let alone three-peat. And then when you saw what he did in the 98 finals, essentially almost pretty much won a championship by himself in Game 6. Scottie Pippen was nothing more than a decoy for much of that game. Offensively, he was done. The fact that he was even out there playing with that type of back injury was very commendable. But Michael won that series, that series on his own. I don't want to say totally on his own, but getting the layup, getting the backdoor steal, hitting the game winner, the series winner, the championship clinching shot. You know, I'm going to have to go with the second three-peat, man. Not to mention the fact that during the second three-peat, the Bulls were generally, except for the last year, the best offensive team in the NBA, and usually the top 2 or 3 defensive team in the NBA. Though I will say when it comes to crunch time, the Bulls were the best defensive team in the NBA when it came to clutch defense. As great as they were offensively and defensively, the earlier three-peat, the Bulls were even better in the second. I never seen a team, when it came down to it, simply refuse to lose in a manner that they did. You know, I'll tell you one of the more amazing statistics during the Michael Jordan era. In games that he played in, you know, not counting 93, 94, or the period of or 94, 95 when he didn't play, but the games when Michael Jordan played in, the 91, 92, the 1990, 91, 91, 92, 92, 93, 17 games he played 94, 95, 95, 96, 96, 97, 97, 98. During that entire period of time, the Bulls only lost 3 games in a row once. And that was the 90-91 season when they started off 0-3. And after Jordan hit that turnaround fadeaway jumper beating the Jazz in Game 4 of that season, the Bulls would never again, with Michael Jordan, lose 3 games in a row. And then one last point I want to make about the second championship team. I'm thinking about the competition that they had. And in 98, they played a Nets team that was pretty goddamn good, if I remember serving correctly. That Nets team had Sam Cassell, I believe Kendall Gill, Jason Williams, Keith Van Horn. I think Kerry Kittles was on that team, if I'm not mistaken. I think Kerry... Let's look at this Nets team right quick. Let me see. That Nets team had Keith Van Horn, who averaged almost 20 points per game that year. Kerry Kittles, I thought Kerry Kittles was on that team. He averaged 17 points and almost 2 steals, 42% shooting from outside. Jason Williams, 12.9 rebounds, 13.6 rebounds. I remember he led the NBA offensive rebounding that year. Then you had Sam Cassell averaging 20 and 8 assists. Kendall Gill, 13 points, 2.5 assists, 1.9 steals. Chris Gatling was on that team. Sherman Douglas was on that team. Michael Cage was on that team. Ronnie Cycli was on that team. That was a good goddamn team. Xavier McDaniel was a reserve on that team. Yinka Dare, Lucius Harris. That was not a bad team at all, man. And then in 1997, in the first round, the Bulls beat the then Washington Bullets. Just the last few games they played before they changed over and became the Wizards. And that team, of course, had a young Chris Webber, a young Jawan Howard, Calbert Chaney. That team had George Mirasan. That team had Rod Strickland. That team had Tracy Murray. That was another good team, man. So I have to go with when I think about it. When you look at the competition, when you look at most factors, I'd have to go with the latter Bulls. I have to go with the latter Bulls teams. As far as overall talent, level, competition, who they beat, the stages the players were in their careers. I'm going to go with the latter Bulls. But tell me what you guys think.